All right, guys. Looks like we're live. Welcome back to Ironside Ranch. We have a really special guest for everybody tonight. We got Josh, the Stoney Ridge farmer, coming on with us. And if you're not familiar with his channel, you should be. He's got a great channel on everything farming. I mean, he talks about equipment, about rebuilding tractors, about he's got a Willys Jeep that he's been working on. He's got just a dozen different projects that he's working through and just doing great things on his channel. And so if you haven't gone over there and subscribed, there'll be a link down in the description. So please go and check his channel out and take a look at what he's doing over there on the Stoney Ridge farm. Really great to have him on the show tonight. He's going to be talking to us about what these concepts of regenerative ranching are. Um, we've talked about it before with Greg Judy's model and versus Joe Salatin's model versus something that Gabe Brown is doing. And so there's a lot of different ideas out there on how to get this done and how to accomplish this. So Josh was kind of gracious enough to join us tonight and to allow us to question and answer him. He started out more in a conventional farming manner, doing kind of commercial breed cows and working through in a more traditional approach with fertilizers and chemicals and basically what everybody else is doing. And over time, he has changed his opinion on it. And so that's kind of the first thing that I wanted to get into with him. But basically he's gonna walk us through this of his approach to how he got there and then what his plan is for the farm going forward. So right now I guess we're still waiting on him to join us. I haven't seen him on yet. um, Roxanne, thanks for watching. I'm actually from Idaho, so that's funny, but that you post that. But thanks for jumping on. I guess we'll give Josh just a couple minutes to get over here. He told me he's gonna give me a couple minutes to do an intro for him and get him staged up here. So while we're waiting on him, let me remind y'all to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Please jump down below, hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell so you get the notifications on this stuff that's going on. And then again, jump over to Josh's channel if you have not subscribed to the Stoney Ridge Farmer. It's a great channel, just lots of good information. I've been subscribed to him, I think, since he probably wasn't at but 10,000 subscribers when I started with him, and now he's at about I think 600,000 subscribers last time I checked. So we got Josh on here at the stream. All right, Josh.
My finger.
Hey. Looks like we got
How's it
you. Hey, good to see you, man.
Heck yeah, good to see you. Excuse the mess on the couch back here. I just bought a motorcycle, and I wanted to be like, it's like a enduro bike, I guess you call it, with the you can ride it on the dirt and on the road. And I wanted to be safe, so I got all this reflective gear behind me.
Man, when I grow up, like I want to be you. I want all those toys that you got on your farm. Like you have got the coolest stuff there to play with, man. I started watching your channel, Josh. I think I was just saying. I think you're about 10,000 subscribers when I started, and now you're at like 600,000. Like I was with you for like a long time, and so it's been fun to see your farm grow and to see what all you've come across on there. So.
Yeah, the farm's grown. Everything has grown so much. I'm gonna put you on timeout for 1 second. I've got to grab another earpiece real quick so I can hear you better.
Okay.
T.
I guess while
how many folks we got watching?
Everybody, let me know if my volume's not okay. If something is off there, something a little wonky, just let me know and I'll do what I can to fix it.
I think we're good. How many people do we have watching right now?
Right now we got about 15 live, and a lot of people commenting over on the side. So it's
nice.
We got more people coming in.
Cool.
I don't know if you want to give them a few minutes to come in, Josh, or if you want to start, just get going.
Nah, we can get going if you want to. Either way, I'm yours.
I wanted to give you a chance, Josh, to talk a little bit about like your farm overview, and kind of what programs you're running now, where your cash flow is coming from, and what you're because and to give you a background on our channel, if you haven't seen much, that's what we're all about, is trying to create self-sufficiency and people trying to create their homesteads or their businesses. And so, and I know you've ran several businesses. I know because I think you've talked about real estate in the past too. I'm pretty sure you did some of that at one point in time. But so anyways, we just wanted to get in and get a general overview of what you're looking at with your farm.
Yeah. So from the get-go here, I kind of fell in love with the idea of holistic land management and just I guess the way this all started, I bought a house in town, and I had this backyard that just looked like crap. This is where the whole dream started. So the backyard just looked totally horrible. I was like, man, I need to do something about this. So I started plugging away at it with a little bitty chainsaw about that big and a machete, and I spent countless hours clearing back there with a machete and a cheap Poulan chainsaw, and bought a tiller, bought a little rototiller, and tilled up the land in the backyard, planted some plants in there, like tomato plants, pepper plants, stuff like that, and it did horrible. I was like, oh man, what's going on here? And I talked to my dad. My dad's a big gardener, and he's like, oh, you need this kind of fertilizer, this right here. I'm like, dude, I don't want to eat that crap. I don't want it. I don't want it around me. So, long story short, I remember growing up, and I remember stepping on honeybees, and I was like, man, there's just no honeybees. There are no bees. There are no pollinators around here. So I bought honeybees. I took a beekeeping course, and I met a lot of people who were doing some interesting stuff. I took a beekeeping course, and I guess it was a 4 or 5 week course every Wednesday night at the local uh, uh, shoot, what do you call it? Local co-op, the county extension office. And I took that course. By the way, it's going to take longer than a half hour for our live stream.
Oh, that's fine. We're good.
So I did that and fell in love with the idea of what I was doing. And I started seeking out land. And, I'm a registered nurse. I worked in the hospital in intensive care for about 13 years. And over that period of time, I met a lot of people that were living out in the country. And everybody I'd asked that lived close to my parents, I would ask them. My parents only lived 15 minutes away. The reason I moved back from the Air Force, I was in the Air Force before all this, was to get closer to mom and dad. That way, if they need me in their old age, then I'd be there for them, or young age, whatever. So all that being said, one of my patients said, "Yeah, I know somebody selling land, me." And he had a 60-acre tract of land. So I bought this 60-acre tract of land. My wife and I did. I told her we're no longer married. I don't know. It's been a little source of drama on the farm channel. A lot of people want to know what happened there. And what happened was my wife, I think she just lost sight of what was important here on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, what we were doing here was the right thing, and I just couldn't figure out why she couldn't do the right thing.
Yeah.
Fast forward a little bit further, bought 60 acres, bought another 90 acres across the way here, and I had a grand plan. This was what we'd refer to as a briar patch. It was grown up in briars and bushes over 12, 16 feet tall, and I started mowing it in, and I knew all along that I didn't want to grow crops. I wanted to grow a garden for the family. I didn't want to grow crops, and I wanted to heal this land holistically and regeneratively. So we started looking at fencing and stuff like that, and the cows and the goats. I started with goats, which is pretty much what every homesteader starts with, because they're
Right.
small and they're horribly, they want committing suicide somewhere in a fence or on a post, or a hay bale fall over on top of one.
Yeah, so I tell everybody we'll never do goats again.
Yeah, goats are a good starter animal, and they're fairly easy to manage. However, you got to have good fences, and even the best fence won't hold a goat. Mm-hmm. So started out with goats. I saw what the goats did for the land, and probably only went through like 5 big round hay bales per year with the goats, and that was over about a 3-year period. But I saw how much better the soil was doing where the goats were. Fast forwarded about 2 years later, and YouTube and social media, sharing all this on social media has really brought a lot of interesting folks to me, like Greg Judy, like Joel Salatin. I've gotten to know these folks on a personal level and learn from them, and these guys were my heroes.
Yeah, I'm a huge Joe Salatin and Greg Judy fan. I follow both of them, and I read just about everything that Joe Salatin publishes.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was. I was my sister actually told me about Joel Salatin. She's like, "Oh, there's this guy. His name is Sala something other. He lives up in Virginia." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's Joel Salatin. I'm speaking at the Homesteaders of America conference with him next week." She's like, "What? You're you jerk." So I ended up meeting all these people who they started out as my heroes, and then uh, became the guide to what I'm trying to do. And we all approach it in different ways. Joel has a different way of doing it than Greg Judy, and um, oh gosh, I'm spacing out the other name, big name
Gabe
in
Brown.
Dave Brown. There you go, Gabe Brown, not Dave Brown.
Yeah,
Gabe
Gabe
Brown.
Brown.
Yeah, so there, I muted you for a second. So anyway, all that being said, we started building fences. We got the cows out here. Started out with 2 cows, I think, then bought another cow. Now we have 31 cows, and we should have, I think, 26 of those are pregnant, either first-year heifers or cows. So we're going to have a pile of cows by next spring, by
That's
April.
exciting.
Yeah. So what I'm doing on my place is, when you first buy a piece of property like this, and it's a major undertaking, 150 acres for one man to manage is just astronomically uh, uh, time consuming and stressful. So what I've kind of done is slowly worked out how I'm going to do my intensive grazing. And actually today I had 10 Mirafount waterers dropped off, and we're going to start installing water tanks all over the farm
Okay.
so that I can intensively graze, mob graze, like Joel Salatin, not quite like Greg Judy. So I won't do the Greg Judy plan where he's moving them twice a day, which, if you have 1,600 acres, you can do that.
Yeah.
But I'm not making a living solely off of my animals here on the farm. I will, in 3 years, I probably will be able to make all the farm payments and be profitable farm. But it takes years to get this up and rolling. And I've been at
Yeah,
it
that's
for,
one thing people
with the
miss about
cows,
the
I guess I'm in
regenerative
my
ranching.
second winter.
Yeah, that's one thing that people miss about the regenerative ranching is that it does
You
take just a
there?
lot longer. Yeah, you got
Oh,
me?
you froze up there. Yeah,
Oh.
you just froze up a bit.
With the regenerative ranching, it just takes a lot longer to build that cash flow than it does if you can come in there and just take out a loan and drop fertilizer and seeds and pay for the clearing and everything and get it going. It's definitely a slower process, I think. So, but that's neat that you're going to be able to get that to be profitable in just a few more years. I think Greg said it took him about 10 years, if I remember right. He worked in town for about 10 years before he was able to get it going.
Yeah, it does take time. It takes a lot of time. And I get this question all the time on the YouTube channel, on Facebook, wherever. Uh, hey, if you didn't have YouTube, you wouldn't have any, if you didn't have this, you wouldn't have that. And I'm like, yeah, of course. If I didn't have my regular job, which coincides with what I'm doing on the farm, then of course I wouldn't have what I have. It takes a diversified mind to be able to push through this, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of money, a lot of capital to get this place. I say, if you want to take a $300,000 piece of property and make it into $1 million farm, then spend $2 million. That'll do it.
Yeah, my granddaddy always said that if he won the lottery, he'd farm until he lost it all. That was his.
Yeah, exactly.
But I happen to believe Joe Salatin. I mean, I like the jokes and all, but I happen to be a big fan of Joe Salatin's. If you've ever read his book, You Can Farm, he goes into the numbers on it and what him and his wife did, basically, dropping everything and just saying, hey, we're gonna put it all on black and make this farm work for us. And so there's obviously success out there, and it's taken time. He did have some advantages. He was able to inherit a farm that was paid for, and that was a huge blessing for him. And not everybody has that, but everybody has some options. And so I think when you if you get rid of the excuses, you can make something happen.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Josh. What breeds of cattle are you running? Are you doing like kind of a Greg Judy thing around the South Poles, or are you looking at? I thought last time I looked at your channel, you were running Black Angus.
These guys right here, Black Angus. So those are my cows. That is my pasture.
Okay.
So we're running a Black Angus cow. Can you hang on one second? because I think I have a predator situation outside. This is farm life. This is real world. Hang on,
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna
We'll
mute.
keep talking. Okay. So guys, if you have any questions that you want to get out to Josh tonight, please post it over in the comments, and we'll try to get as much of this answered as we can. What I really want to know is I want to know some of the details on what he's doing with the regenerative ranching, and this is why I want to talk to him about what kind of cows he's running and that sort of thing. So if y'all would have some details, then some things that you'd like to know, then please by all means post it there over in the comment box. I guess other than that, we'll just kind of awkwardly wait for Josh to return.
I'm here.
Okay, we got back.
I guess you can see me. Can you see me?
No, you keep kind of freezing up slightly, so I don't have you in the screen
Your
right now, but
feed's
I can hear
freezing
you.
up a little bit.
You there, Josh?
Yeah, there you go. You blinked out on me for a second.
Okay.
Yep. I had to run. There was a fox out in the yard. So I've got a
Oh,
fox problem right now. I say problem. I mean, I'm happy to have the foxes out there as long as they're not eating my chickens, and everything likes chicken. So,
yeah.
um, yep.
So let
So,
me ask you this, Josh. Why did you use why did you choose Angus as your breed rather than something like a South Pole or a Piney Wood or something that's maybe a little bit more heritage specific, that's slightly more disease resistant and that sort of thing, or even Brahmins for that matter. What made you choose that breed, and are you set with that breed? Is that what you're staying with?
um, well, okay. It's like this. There's a niche market out there for everything, anything, and everything. I subscribe to the 1,100-pound cow is so much easier on the land than a 1,400-pound cow. Do I subscribe to that? No, I don't. I don't at all. I think what I'm doing out here on my farm is different than what somebody like Greg Judy is doing. My cow math is different. Uh, Joel Salatin's running. Well, he's running a mix of Charolais and Angus and Red Angus, Black Angus, all sorts of different types of cows. So I honestly just don't geek out on the cow breed. I just don't do it. I Greg Judy is really about being easy on the land. Right now, my land is horrible. Like we have no topsoil whatsoever. So every time that cow's hoof steps into the soil, it forms a cup. And what does that cup do?
Holds water.
It holds water. So where does that water go? Into the soil and not into the creek. So where his school of thought on that rich, wonderful, topsoil rich land that's out in central Missouri, and where Joel Salatin's thought process up there in the Shenandoah Valley, uh, their processes are going to be a little bit different than a guy like me that's farming a worn out old tobacco farm that has been tilled under and plowed under for the last 250 years. So we've got a little bit of a different school. 250 years ago, nobody was in Missouri. The
Mm-hmm.
reason they moved to Missouri is because the land here was the pits. I mean, they used it up. So a lot of, and if you've read Joel Salatin's books, a lot of what Joel has done and what his family has done, and he is, I believe, there are 3 generations on the farm right now,
Yeah, his
maybe
his
four.
mom and his kids and his grandkids, right?
Yeah, so four
Yeah.
generations. So they've got a 60-year head start, 70-year head start on me. You know, they started their farm, I think, in like 1960, 1961.
Yep.
And here, this farm started in 2013.
Right.
So those guys have a 60-year head start on me. Greg Judy has, I mean, he started back in the early 90s. So he's got a 30-year head start on me. However, uh, the lessons that they've learned along the way are lessons that I apply to what I'm learning along the way, and I'm testing, which is
Right.
something that's really, I think, interesting about the YouTube channel is that what I can do is test stuff out, try things out, and tell you what works and what didn't work for this horribly poor soil that we have here.
Mm-hmm. So, Josh, let me interrupt you real quick because we got a question. Somebody asked, Are you finishing your well, just bumped up? Are you finishing your Angus out or selling them as yearlings?
Some of them I'll be selling as yearlings. I think there'll be a market for it. They'll be on my website on StoneyRidgeFarmer.com later next year. So I will start selling next fall right off the farm. Whether I guess whether there's a market for my Angus beef or whether there's a market for say the South Pole cow or whatever. Uh, my thought is a lot of what like Greg Judy talks about is grass genetic. In other words, I need a few years to get good grass genetics. But these cows have been around. These Black Angus cows have been around for nearly 100 years now. So, and what have they been eating for 100 years? Grass. So the word grass genetic applies to any bovine animal that's a ruminant animal. So, uh, would my Black Angus be less disease resistant than somebody else's? So far, I'm finding that they're very disease resistant. You provide the environment for a healthy animal, and the animal remains healthy. You provide the environment for a not so healthy animal, like a wet, nasty, mud hole, manure infested environment, then they're not going to be successful. So I think whether it's Black Angus, whether it's South Pole, or whatever breed it is that you go with, um, I think you create the environment for the cow. So the answer is yes, I'll be selling cows right off the farm. I do not want my animals going to the sale barn. The only animals that will go to the sale barn are animals that will be culls here on the farm. And typically, if it's a cull off the farm, I'll probably beef that animal and sell the beef.
Yep. That's actually exactly what we do. I don't like selling at sale barns, and so we stay away from them. And we do kind of a similar thing. Josh, let me ask you this: what are you doing as far as your your parasite control, your wormings, your vaccinations? Do you mind talking a little bit about kind of what your medical plan is for your animals? Since because if I remember right, Josh, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you first started your channel, you were a little bit more traditional, and I remember where I thought the change happened was you did a video and I still remember your camera and your face and everything with Joe Soliton in the background saying, "Why isn't everybody raising pigs like this?" And so and that's it was about that point that I started noticing, and maybe it was just me noticing, but you were a little bit more conventional when you first started. Is that not correct?
Well, when I first started, which was only, this is my second winter with the cows. So, the first winter I didn't vaccinate. The cows were wormed when I bought them, and I wormed 4 or 5 cows since then. So, in the last 2 years, 4 or 5 cows have been wormed. I do vaccinate for blackleg, which is something where we're clearing new land out here. Blackleg is in the soil. It's something that will kill your cow just like that. So I do vaccinate for tetanus and for blackleg. That's all included in one vaccine. When I run the cows through to ban them, we'll typically give the tetanus and the blackleg, and then you got to run them back through and give them a booster.
So I
As
assume you're
for
doing the tetanus then just specifically because you're banding.
Yep, yep, absolutely. So
No, that's a huge debate. I know Judy he prefers to do the banding, and Joe Soliton thinks that you should always cut them and do it. And hey, I think it's 6 to 1, half a dozen to the other. But have you noticed any? I mean, have you had like any major health issues with your cows and doing it this way and trying to stay away from things like obviously you're obviously doing it similar to us where I'm not going to neglect my cow if it needs ivermectin, it gets a shot of ivermectin or gets its dosage or whatever it is. But we don't do it as a regular treatment. Have you noticed any big problems with yours? Problems with gain? Problems with them cows just getting sick?
no, I have not. Here's the deal. I don't. When I worked as a nurse, and I think my medical background comes in here. When I worked as a nurse, and I worked with a lot of physicians. I have a lot of doctor friends. We don't we don't treat the well. We take care of the well and provide the environment for wellness. And again, we don't medicate something that doesn't need to be medicated. In other words, not unnecessarily giving medications to our animals is the way that I work. Now you can tell and you can do a manure test and see what kind of parasite load that you have. But a lot of what I'm doing is again holistic management, holistic pasture management. So I burn brush piles in the pastures where the cows will be moving. And when they move to a new pasture, they have charcoal. They have access to charcoal. Charcoal is what they pump people's stomachs with. If you ingest a poison, you're going to get your stomach pumped. When you get your stomach pumped, they put a tube in your nose or a tube in your throat, and they push charcoal in and they pull it back out. That charcoal grabs those toxins. That charcoal also will help deworm that cow. So there's a natural way of doing this. Obviously, if the parasite load, and you can tell when the cow's health is declining slightly, or the parasite load might be high, maybe a really woolly cow in the summertime, um, and we'll treat that cow. So basically, I treat the animal that's sick. I don't treat the entire herd because it's just in my mind it's irresponsible animal husbandry. I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree, and anybody that watches our channel knows that we raise our animals in the same way, and we raise heritage breed animals simply because we're for two reasons. One, we're on smaller land here. I don't have near the land. We only have 20 acres that we raise on, so we raise a
Yeah,
smaller cow, and then also we just try to focus on keeping things holistic and not treating them unless there's a problem. But when there's a problem, I don't screw around about it. We give them the antibiotics, we give them what they need, and we get them well again.
yeah.
Um, Josh, are you doing, and I know you mentioned goats, and I know you've got chickens that are your own chickens. Are from a commercial standpoint, are you doing goats, chickens, pigs, anything other than cattle? Or are you strictly cattle? I know you plan to, I think, but are you strictly cattle at this point in time?
At this point in time, I'm strictly cattle. You've got to find a market for that chicken. You've got to find a market for that pork. I want to raise pigs more than anything. Pigs are awesome. I just think they're just really cool. My goal is to have. I'll start probably this year or next year. Probably this year with two pigs, and I'll raise them out to hogs, and we'll process those hogs, and we'll make country ham and all the good stuff that comes with that. We'll do the old-fashioned, old-timey Appalachian hog processing that my great grandfather passed on to my grandfather and to my dad and to me. So uh, chickens, I do the chicken tractor similar to Joel Salatin's. I have a little bit of a different design. I do a PVC mobile coop that I move
Yeah,
through the
I've seen your
yard.
video on that.
Yep. So what people need to understand is all this doesn't just happen like boom, 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 boom. It just isn't going to happen all at once. And especially if it's just a one-man show like what I have with me, I'm going to have to get my cattle operation up and running and then slowly start integrating the chickens into it. And I've got a cool plan. I've got an old camper, my uncle, crazy guy, we call him Cousin G on the channel. He just came across an old camper, tow behind camper, and I'm going to put that out in the pasture, and I'm going to build chicken roosts and stuff. I'm going to put uh, uh, lumber on it from the sawmill. I'm going to fix it all up, make it a little mobile barn, and I'm going to move it through. And they're going to do pasture sanitation, much like Joel does on his farm at Polyface.
Yeah, that's actually the next step for us here too. Is we've been running cows and pigs, and we actually started out doing pigs, and we've got our kind of our pork recipe. We know exactly what to feed those pigs to get, and we raise them just all on pasture, but they get a feed supplement. We do a non-GMO feed supplement milled here in Alabama from Tucker Milling. It just makes wonderful pork, so we've been real happy with that. And we've tried them several ways. We tried them with traditional commercial feeds, and just even for our owns, giving them the leftover slop and stuff, and there was a substantial flavor difference in the end product. So we thought that was really interesting that the non-GMO quality sunflower seed pork was substantially better. um, what Josh, as far as we've talked about the big ones, Greg Judy, Joe Salatin, and a little bit on Gabe Brown. Where did you find good sources of information for people? And obviously anybody watching this can go to your channel. You've got tons of information on there. I mean, I don't know how many videos you've got on there, but you got, I mean, god awful
Over 1,000.
videos. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you've got just a ton of information on there. And then those three names, if anybody looks those up, where do you have any other recommendations, any other people that you've enjoyed watching that or that reading about that have been substantially helpful to you?
Man, there's so much out there. I mean, there's so much on YouTube. There's so many books on holistic animal husbandry. Somebody that has been really important has been Temple Grandin. And if you guys haven't seen, there's a Hollywood movie out called, I believe the title is Temple Grandin. She's an autistic woman. She works at the University of Colorado. Actually flew out to Colorado just to sit down and interview her and talk to her about this, about uh, um, handling your animals in a low stress environment, building a handling system that will work to lower the stress on your animals, so you're not fighting and yipping and yelling and carrying on and making all this noise and beating and banging and scaring your animals. I would say that anything Temple Grandin related. Temple's got a couple books out. I think one of it is, oh gosh, I've got it in my, it's sitting on my desk. It's always sitting on my desk. Um, but anyway, Temple Grandin is probably one of the biggest influences from me. If you guys don't follow me on YouTube, follow me on Facebook, because every day we go spend time with the cows on Facebook. Nearly every day I'm doing a live stream out there with the cows. I'm feeding them. I'm showing everybody how this is done. I'm using a Greg Judy baling roller, rolling the hay out on the land. I mean, so I would say take all those pieces of the puzzle and compile them and try different things, you know. But the unfortunate thing about trying different things on your farm is, one, cost. There's a cost there. Two, you want to always be doing the right thing for your animals. And when you don't do the right thing for your animals, you start having sick animals, and that's just horrible. So the lessons learned are costly lessons. So do a lot of research ahead of time, and don't
Mhm.
put your animals on the truck and trailer before you get the right fences built.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, Josh, I mean, I just have one more question for you, and
Yeah.
then I can let you go. I know your time's pretty valuable. So, as far as future plans for Stony Ridge operation, I didn't know if we talked a little bit about some of that tonight, where you're going, but I didn't know if you wanted to kind of articulate what your plans are for the next, say, 5 years, and what you're wanting to do.
Yeah. Well, first of all, my time is no more valuable than your time or anybody else's time out here. You know, it really isn't. And I'm happy to talk to folks for sure. Where the farm goes from here, we've got another 50 acres to fence in. And you understand, I'm sure, what an astronomical undertaking that
I
is
can't
going to
even
be.
imagine.
Water systems are very, very, very important, especially with a large piece of property like this. So we have a solar well back here behind my house, and we'll be connecting the dots. Basically, I'm putting a water tank. I believe it's a 8,000 gallon above ground water storage tank for the solar well, because it's cheaper to store water than it is to store power.
Yeah, we found that
Uh,
out too.
Yep, and we'll be running and trenching and putting lines in all over the farm, and so that the next leg of fencing to where I can actually increase my herd size to around 100 to 120, and that's about the mark where you start earning a comfortable living off of your animals, and you go from hobby farm to farmer, to full-fledged farmer. So
Mhm.
and the farm becomes much more self-sufficient. So that's the plan. I've got 50 more acres, 25 acres to fence this year back behind the house. Got a few cross fences that I want to put in, and a lot of water tanks. And also, just taking people out and showing them how the land has improved over the last year or two. I've been slowly pulling together footage and what this place looked like before. If you guys haven't seen the channel, go back 4 years and look at where. I mean, if you saw, I probably had 10,000 followers, I guess, when you started watching.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was you were at the start. I know that it was
yeah.
probably it was in your first year. I remember that.
Yeah. So you probably saw timber being cut,
Mhm.
fields being cleared, all that stuff. The lessons that I've learned over time with clearing land, how to do that in the most intelligent and efficient manner to conserve topsoil. I've learned a lot. I've learned tons. Out here in front of my house, I screwed up. I messed up back here on this side of the farm. I messed up in so many places, but over time I've learned, and you just have to take your time and do this. I'm 44 years old. Will I be earning a profit by the time I'm 50? Yeah, I'll be earning a profit here on the farm by the time I'm 50, but you can't just jump in head first and start something like this. It's just a monumental undertaking. So,
Yeah.
uh, and getting ready to build the mega shop. That'll be cool. That'd be really fun to
Yeah.
have a workspace.
Yeah,
Because
your workshop's been a little cramped for a couple years.
yeah, you should see it. It's It's so horrible. It's just
Well,
so I
one of
can't
these
even
days
get
I got to
in
make it
there.
up there to your farm and come see your operation. I just I've been trying to like hell, but I've got 3 businesses that I run, so it's hard to get away.
Yeah, it takes time. It
But
takes time for sure.
well,
So
Josh, I won't hold you up any longer, man. I really appreciate you coming on, guys. If you have not gone over, there's a link in the description for Stony Ridge Farmer and his YouTube channel. So definitely go check that out. Check out his Facebook page. He's just got a wealth of knowledge and a world of information out there. So highly encourage you guys to go check that out. Plus, it's just fun, and you get to hear Josh yell woo and good music.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
So have you had any health problems with your cows?
No, well, okay. So in general, no. We've had a few that we got some very rich hay, and we got some bloat on them, and then we realized that the reason they were bloating from the richer hay was also because they were a little overloaded on their parasites. So we wormed them and got it under control, and it wasn't an issue. But that's really about it. We're raising Florida crackers, which are a heritage breed that are kind of somewhat indigenous to the South, if you know their history. And they tend to be just very, very resistant to animals. And so it's a lot less, and that's part of the reason why we went with them. And so there's a lot less problems with them in general. And heritage breeds in general for most animals tend to have less problems one way or the other. So that's part of it. But you got to realize our cows are small. They get to a full grown cow be about 750 to 800 pounds.
Okay. How many cows are you running?
Right now, about 15.
Okay. Well,
Well,
that's a crowd on 20 acres for sure.
yeah, and again, they eat about half of what a full size cow does. So I'm going through
Yeah.
about the hay quantity of probably somebody with 7 or 8 cows. So it makes a little bit difference there. But we're trying to about the maximum I think my land can hold healthy wise is going to be about 30 cows, fluctuating for how many I'm selling and moving off and on. So, but somewhere between 20 and 40 is where I want to be at.
How are you selling your cows? Have you sold any yet?
Yeah, we sell everything direct to consumer. So we went straight with Soliton's model on that. I didn't like the feedlots or the sale barns because I think feedlots, as a general rule, are unethical. And so I have problems with that. I have problems with somebody going in there and putting cows in these just very cramped and nasty conditions. And so and that I didn't want to be eating that. So that was a big reason why we started raising our own food in the first place.
Yeah.
And so we when we did that, we said, okay, well, we're not going to sell at sale barns. The problem that we've had is getting rid of cull animals is difficult when you're not selling at sale barns. So what we end up doing is feeding them out slightly differently, advertise it, and say, this is an animal that was fed here on our farm. It may have received a grain supplement, or it has received a grain supplement to put on some weight, and now it's ready to go. But and we just try to be honest with our customers about it and let them know, these are the conditions that we try to raise to. We don't guarantee that we hit that mark every time, and that we're not perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a huge difference in the in what's grass fed versus almost 100% grain fed. I mean, the feedlot beef, whether you're raising your animals and supplementing with a little bit of grain on your farm versus taking them to the feedlot, there's a huge, huge difference in the flavor profile and the nutritional value. I mean, we're
Mhm.
talking about a highly nutritious animal. I mean, dude, I've lost 75 pounds
Yeah.
just eating meat off of my farm responsibly and intelligently and not overdoing it. So it's true. It's true. And eat animals that are close by you. So in other words, you don't want to. I don't want to eat a cow that's raised in Wyoming because I want to eat a cow that's raised here in North Carolina, close by me, because it's consumed the plants and herbs and the flora from my local area, thus helping my body to be disease resistant and disease and allergy resistant. You think about the epidemic of allergies in young people nowadays because they've never eaten an animal that was raised within 50 miles of where they live.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I mean, and we talked about that the other day on one of our live chats where you buy a tomato that's raised 1,200 miles away from where you're living and where you're eating it at, and it has to have
yeah,
the consistency and the flavor of cardboard in order to make the transport. Go buy an
yeah,
heirloom tomato from your local shop and eat tomatoes that are in season, and the
yeah.
flavor is outrageously better, but the amount of nutrition that they pack in is 2, 3, and 4 times as much depending on what the product is.
And you don't have to be a crazy hippie.
No.
You don't have to eat purple tomatoes to do this. You can raise your own stuff and it's simple. It's just so much better. There's nothing like a homegrown tomato off of your own place. In fact, I'm drinking tomato juice tonight from the tomatoes that I canned this year. So
Oh, nice. Well, Josh,
yeah,
we got one more question that several people have wanted you to answer. So let me see if I can get you to answer it, and then I promise I'll let you go.
yeah.
Somebody asked, "What's the difference between grain-fed and grass-fed?" So I'll let you if you want to tackle that one.
Okay, so the USDA defines grass-fed beef as anything that's fed 30% or more grass. Their diet consists of 30% or more grass. Okay. Uh, Grass fed 100% versus grain fed 100%. You and I both know that cows are a ruminant animal. Ruminant means they ruminate in their stomach chambers. They have several chambers in their stomach. They burp up. In other words, that's what supposedly is destroying our environment. They burp up their food. So they'll chew the food that they eat, which would be grass, and they swallow it, and then it digests a little bit. They burp it back up. They masticate. They chew that a little bit more. They swallow it back down, and it slowly digests. When you take a cow that's used to being a ruminant animal living, it's an herbivore. It's not a grainivore. It lives on grass. Okay, so you take that cow and you disrupt the digestive system of that cow by feeding it grain. Okay, it disrupts the digestive system of that cow. It disrupts the health system, the cow's natural ability to defend itself from uh, both parasites and disease. And you just have a generally over medicated, less healthy animal from an animal that is fed a grain diet.
Hmm.
So we shoot for a grass diet. That's what these animals uh, were were bred. They were, how to say this, genetically, they're not designed to eat corn. Neither are you. That's why when it comes in, it comes out the same way that it went in, except for there's no chewing on the other end. Um, yeah, I mean, that's why they're not designed to digest that.
Hmm.
We are not designed to digest it. They're designed by nature or God or whoever, however you believe. Genetically, they're designed to digest grass and not designed to digest grain. So grain is
No,
something that we've introduced as a quick way, a pill to fatten a cow up. Does it
mhm.
make them taste better? I
No.
think so. I think so. You don't
You
think
think so?
so?
No, I
So
think that.
grass-fed beef versus grain-fed beef. Uh, there is a different taste in a grain-fed uh, beef versus a grass-fed beef, and a lot
Mhm.
of people around here will grain finish, kind of like what you were talking about.
Right.
They'll pin up the animal and they'll grain finish that animal. I'm not doing that. But I do see a difference in the flavor profile and the fat profile and the tenderness of the meat. Is it
Yeah.
all about is it all about taste? Some people may like a grass-fed animal more than they would like a grain-fed animal.
So
It's
I think as
about
a general rule, the grass fed, I think grass fed, the meat is definitely a richer flavor, and I like it better. Partly I like it better because I'm biased. It does not have the fat content. It won't have the marbling, and it will be generally speaking tougher. And so, and then this is, and again, going back to Joe Soliton, he talks about that all the time. That when did we come up with this idea that our steaks are supposed to be flash seared and served that way, where as
yeah.
opposed to slow cooking them and breaking down the fibers?
Yeah, yeah, and that's I don't want to say that I like a grain-fed beef better, but I will say that I was used to eating regular beef that you buy from the store, and when I processed my first cow here on the farm, I was like, man, this just tastes different. It just tastes, and it's hard to I guess to market that. So if I process a cow and I've got to sell ribeyes or New York strips out of a grass-fed beef, they're not going to be as tender and as marbled as a grain-fed beef steak.
Hmm.
They're just not going to be. Uh, but you're getting nutrition. It's about the nutritive value of this meat versus a filler. In other words, you're just eating filler when you're eating a cow that's raised on grain. You're just eating an artificially flavored meat, in other words, and
Absolutely.
it's loaded with antibiotics. And I mean, you got to think about those feedlot cows are out there and they're wading belly deep in manure all day, every day. I mean, it's
Mhm.
horrible.
It is, and it's That's again why we think it's unethical and why we got away. And pigs are honestly raised in a worse environment. If you ever watch how commercial pigs are raised,
Yeah,
the
I've
pigs in
been there.
chicken definitely have the worst life. And so I own an inspection company in Birmingham, and we do property inspections. And we used to do property inspections for chicken houses for the insurance companies. And I mean, they're pretty awful. It's pretty disgusting the way that it works. So. But Josh, again, I don't want to hold you up too long. I really appreciate you coming on. And again, everybody, please go check out his channel and take a look at what Josh has to offer over there. Other than that, Josh, do you have anything else you want to say in closing?
Oh, thanks for having me on. Appreciate
Yeah,
it, man.
thank you.
All right. Well, guys, take care. Woo!